the EU referendum, did you vote in or out?
In.
I would have left the EU.
Oh. In.
In. Out.
I voted in.
Britain should have voted to stay.
I'm impartial. I mean, there's a lot to look at on both sides.
I voted remain.
Well, I voted out.
My view is that we should work together. And I voted for my grandchildren to remain.
We did because a government is one, stop moaning, and two, our prices need to go up.
To avoid a reduction in foreign direct investment from TNC.
It was more the thought of leaving was quite scary. Wasn't sure what would happen. The thought of the unknown.
Because after Brexit, the cost of living will go up and the lower classes will struggle.
They needed it for trade, and I wasn't sure what the policy was going to be like after the UK left on travel.
In terms of gaining back power to our government and not being ruled by someone in another state, I think that's actually a positive step for us.
I don't really like the idea of us breaking away.
Some of the laws that they have brought in, particularly around working hours, trading, environment, those kind of things, energy production, are hugely useful to the UK, and I don't think that we would have actually done it if it hadn't been for the fact that we were a member of the EU.
Simply because our housing is pretty poor.
Thought by staying eventually we'd get some reform, but we'd all be united.
They've been brought up as feeling European.
I think the UK has always had the structure of the EU. I feel that having to restructure totally the UK is just going to be a crazy task.
The compromises that we'll have to make to bring up those trade agreements again with different countries in Europe are going to be probably quite large. I can't see that they'd be willing to give us the same deals that we had before so easily.
You know, if I want to work abroad in future, it might be maybe difficult.
Closer to full employment means that if they did all go home, we'd actually just have enormous problems finding builders and plumbers and people to pick our vegetables and everything else. So I didn't think that immigration was an issue.
People I know who have been attacked for looking foreign or speaking a foreign language. And economically I am losing a lot of money.
Through an in-out referendum on Thursday the 23rd of June.
The Prime Minister of the UK, David Cameron, announced that on the 23rd of June 2016, Britain will hold a referendum to decide whether Britain should remain a member of the EU. A movement of leadership roles then began with the Leave side, headed by Boris Johnson and Giselle Stuart with help from Nigel Farage, and the Remain side, headed by the government, with key members such as David Cameron and George Osborne, as well as Jeremy Corbyn providing a backing.
To these EU institutions is not what my mother and father voted for back in 1975.
Because the organisation that we belong to now, the European Union, has changed out of all recognition from what we signed up to in 1972.
The question that I want to ask, that we're all going to ask, is who are you? I'd never heard of you. Nobody in Europe had ever heard of you. I would like to ask you, President, who voted for you?
I believe Britain will be stronger in a reformed Europe.
So, Europe needs to change. But that change can only come from working with our allies in the European Union to achieve it.
But if we vote to leave, then we lose control. We lose control of our economy. And if you lose control of your economy, you lose control of everything.
Okay, so now we'll be looking at the likely effects of the EU referendum, starting with the positives. The decision to leave the EU has caused people to become more politically aware and determined to have a positive leadership in power. It has also given the chance for all citizens of the United Kingdom to have their say on whether Britain should remain a member of the EU, defining the UK as a democracy.
On the other hand, there are potential negative effects that can stem from the decision to vote leave. Xenophobia has spread and immigrants feel isolated as second-class citizens. Discrimination has become apparent in the forms of EU citizens being refused work or housing. With an unknown future ahead, it is also possible for a leader to further divide the nation and generate further fear-mongering.
However, it is too early to say with assurance whether the result of the EU referendum has been an overall success or failure for the UK. With this historic change now a permanent fixture in the lives of British citizens, it is important to remind everyone that we cannot let this discrimination fester from the bad wound of the unknown. Leaders at any level should remind people that the decision is made, but now we shape the outcome.